Well, I have a lot to say about this doctor that we have here today. He's very esteemed, and it's our honor to have him here. Dr. Dalagianni is a board-certified plastic surgeon born in Corinth, Greece in 1967. At the age of 7 months, his family moved to South Africa, where he lived until the age of 10. Growing up amid the turmoil and ugliness of apartheid, his family clung to their Greek heritage and family values. In an attempt to escape the apartheid, they moved to the country of Lesotho and then back to Greece a few months later. At the age of 11, him and his family moved to and settled in Amherst, Ohio. He attended Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, where he majored in chemistry and history. He then proceeded on to Wright State University Medical School and subsequently did his residency in general surgery at Fairview Cleveland Clinic Hospital. He then went on to complete a fellowship in plastic, cosmetic, reconstructive surgery, followed by a fellowship in hand and microsurgery, both at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. He also did additional training in microsurgery at University of Louisville, Kentucky, and cosmetic surgery at the Manhattan Eye, Ear, and Throat Hospital of New York. Dr. Dalagianni is currently in private practice in Toledo, Ohio, where he is a thriving cosmetic and reconstructive surgeon. He is also chief of plastic surgery at all 3 major Toledo area hospitals and serves as mentor and attending physician to many of the St. Vincent Mercy Medical Centers and University of Toledo Medical Center residents. He has published many scientific papers and helps run the Regional Burn Center at St. Vincent Mercy Medical Center in Toledo. He has also been featured in various publications and has lectured all over the U.S. He has also been featured internationally on the Broadcast Antenna Network of New York. Dr. Dalagianni is actively involved in coaching, on a little personal note, and various sports, and is board of numerous organizations. He is married to Cindy, and they have 5 wonderful children. It is our honor to have Dr. Tom Dalagianni here today.
Thank you, everybody. Can everybody hear me? I'm a casual speaker, so I'm going to walk around and talk. I want this to be a casual lecture. There's nothing worse than sitting up here and listening to somebody who's dry and is just boring as all get out. That's not what I'm going to do today. It's an honor to be here, especially with all these beautiful young ladies. And I know I am a plastic surgeon, so I know about this. You know, when they asked me to speak, I really didn't know how to approach this because we are talking about my culture, which is Greece, but we also are addressing so many other ethnicities. You know, when you watch that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, that speaks to so many different cultures, and I have so many friends in different nationalities that say, you know what, that is just like my household. And the reality is that's true. Just because I'm Greek, whether you're Italian, Hungarian, Polish, Slovak, they're all the same. And those are the kind of things that I want to touch on today. So when I talk about a Greek culture or a Greek community, it really is no different than being in any other international community. So to start with a little background about me. I was born in Corinth, Greece. And for those of you that don't know where Greece is, it's right up in here. So we're going to zoom in right to here. And Greece is a European nation. And now, as everybody knows with the news, it's part of the European community, and they are in a little bit of financial difficulty, as everybody else is in the world. Greece is best known for mythology, which everybody knows about. It's something that we know even as kids. We see it on television. They are known for their architecture, which many times is tied with this mythology, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. dear to me is it is the birthplace of medicine. It's also the birthplace of philosophy, many of the performing arts, and, as my father will always tell you, because he thinks he's the smartest man in the world, critical thinking. I want to touch a little bit on the Greek flag. When I was researching this, even things that I didn't know about came to light. What the Greek flag is it's basically symbolism, just like every other country's flag. The Greek flag has a white cross on it, and as I'm going to talk about in a little bit, religion is ingrained in our culture. It defines us. It relates to who we are. You cannot separate being Greek and being Greek Orthodox. What the white cross represents is this religion, this Christian orthodoxy amidst a blue, which is the ocean. There are 9 alternating lines. They're blue and white. The ocean is essential to their culture, their economy, their livelihood. And when we talk about the blue, we're representing the ocean, and the white is the crest or the peak of the waves as the waves come crashing down. What I didn't know, and what I think most Greeks don't know, is why there are 9 stripes on the Greek flag. Interestingly enough, it's because of this phrase, Eleftheria y Thanatos, which translates to freedom or death. Most of Greece's life has been in occupancy. They're either occupied by the Romans, or they're occupied by the Turks or the Ottoman Empire. So this battle cry, this freedom or death, was essential. And the number of syllables in Eleftheria y Thanatos is where the 9 bars come from, 9 syllables. I was born in Corinth, which is right here in the country of Greece, not too far from Athens. Interestingly enough, when we talk about Greece and we talk about these other countries, what we're not really putting into perspective is that Greece, the whole country of Greece, is about the size of Ohio. Its population is also very, very similar. And this is not a geography lesson. I don't want to bore you with the details, but it's just interesting how this relates. Because when we talk about a different country, we are relating it to the size of the United States. And Greece is a very, very small country. All the good, because you talk about the good country, the old country, how great it was back then. Well, the reality is if it was that great, you would never have left in the first place. Or your family would never have left in the first place. What happened with my parents is they changed. Yes, they're Greek, and we clung to those values, and I'll talk a little bit about those values. But as they left Greece, they changed, they evolved, just like all of us do. When we went back to Greece, Greece hadn't changed. Greece was essentially the same as when they left. And that makes it even harder, because now you've seen what the outside is. Granted, it was South Africa, and there was a lot of apartheid, but it was different. There were freedoms there that they didn't have, or the things that they could do that they couldn't do in Greece. So the real reason, again, is the opportunity for more. The thing that this country allows us to do, whether it's capitalism, whether it's freedom, whether it's the ability and the drive to go on and do everything that you want to do without somebody saying, you know what, your father's a bricklayer, you're going to be a bricklayer. Or your mother's a beautician, you can't go to college. You can't do this or you can't do that. My parents couldn't afford to send me to any of those things. But I didn't, because there were means for me to get them. This country allowed me to do that. So, what were these ideals that tie us all together? Well, the main thing is religion. And that goes true, I think, for 90% of the cultures here. Religion is what binds us. If you're not Greek, you're not Greek Orthodox. If you're Greek Orthodox, you're Greek. That's the way it goes. The other thing is our culture. We've had years of domination and occupancy. Our language, the appreciation of beauty and life, the zest that we have. You know, the zest when my family would get together and my uncles would come visit. I would have friends spend the night when I was younger. And they'd call me up and say, or they'd say, you know, I want to call my mom, I want to go home. And I said, why do you want to go home? He says, well, your dad and your uncle are fighting. I said, listen, they're not fighting, that's how they talk. They're loud, they move their hands, there's this zest for life that they talk. The family unit, the extended family, having grandparents that you love, and not waiting for your kids to be 18 years old so they can be kicked out of the house, but saying, you know what, I can't wait for my kids to come back with their kids so that we can all live together and they can take care of us just like we've been taking care of them. Those are the kind of things that tie us all together. And then food. You know, this Greek food is love. It's true. food is food. You know, when I would say to my dad, you know, Dad, I don't like lamb. I said, what, you're not Greek, you don't like lamb? You know, we associate certain foods with who we are. And that's part of what it is. It's our culture. The other thing, too, is, you know, you kind of go to somebody's house, and they'll ask you once, they'll ask you twice, and if you go to a Greek home, they'll ask you 5 or 6 times whether you want something to eat or something to drink. And at some point during that stay, you're going to eat and drink. I went with my mom, and I met some of my friends' parents, and we were sitting there, and they asked her if she would like something to drink, and she said, no, thank you. And then, you know, 3 minutes later, she comes to me, and she says, hey, can you give me something to drink? I said, Mom, they asked you if you wanted something to drink. She goes, yeah, but they only asked me once. You know, if they would have asked me 2 or 3 more times, I would have said yes. So we associate love with food and the family unit and culture and religion, and they all tie together. And it works like that for most of the cultures here today. Now, I think it was like 2001, I went to Greece with my roommate from college. And he was a very, you know, typical, straightforward American, meat and potatoes guy. So we're in some restaurant right on the ocean there. And my Greek is good, but it's not phenomenal, and I speak more common Greek than I speak actually the higher Greek. And we're sitting there, and he's trying to explain to me, my friend says, you know, I need a menu, man. I can't just order anything I want without knowing, I need to see it. So I turned to this guy that owns the restaurant there, and I explained to him, I said, please, I want to see a menu. He says, I don't know what menu is. And I said, well, he wants to see what he's going to eat. Because, you know, he doesn't eat a lot of different things. He goes, and so he looks at him and says, you want to see what you eat? I show you. He takes him by the hand. He takes him to the back of the restaurant. And he shows him, and I don't know what it is about Greeks and wanting to keep the heads on everything that they eat, but he shows them a lamb in the back with a head. He shows them a fish with the head in place. And then he shows them this. Now, Brent, my friend, as you can imagine, turned around and threw up right after he saw it. So like I said, he wanted to see what he was going to eat, so there it is. So those ideals are what kept the Greek spirit alive. Didn't matter where we lived. Didn't matter whether we lived in Africa. Didn't matter whether we lived in the United States. We were Greek, not because of where we were living, but because of who we were. We promoted the best part of Greece, which is keeping that culture alive. We moved to Lorain, Ohio in December of 1977. And I remember this because that was the big blizzard of 77. Now, I lived in Greece for a little bit, and I lived in Africa for a little bit. There was no snow in any of those places. So the only snow I had ever seen was in a postcard. And I know this is going to seem really silly because you guys get a lot of snow here, we get a lot of snow here, but I thought snow was like cotton. So I remember, and Mom, you remember this, we come out of the airport in Cleveland Hopkins, and my brother and I are running out, and we've got shorts on and a t-shirt, and we just jump into the snow, and very quickly realize that snow is cold, and it is wet. So anyway, that was my first experience coming to Cleveland. I started in the 5th grade, but they dropped me down because my English was okay, it just wasn't very good. You know, we spoke Afrikaans, I spoke a little bit of Swahili, I spoke Greek. Greek was my first language, but English just wasn't that important at that time. My parents worked all day. I took care of my brother and sister, taking care of them while my parents worked. The staying up late at night, I credit my mother for. You know, we would stay up for, and my mother, let me tell you, trying to spell words with her accent and trying to explain them to me so that I can spell them back to her, it was very dramatic. But we stayed up all night, we'd get up in the morning, and she would work with me, learning my words, learning my alphabet. I remember, and where's Madeline? There she is. We had I don't know if it was a library class, but Madeline was with me in 4th grade. And I was the last kid. I could not come out of there because I couldn't alphabetize my words. And the reason I couldn't alphabetize my words is because I didn't know the alphabet. I didn't understand that you needed to know the alphabet to alphabetize. And the problem is, in 4th grade, nobody tries to teach you that because they expect you to already know that. I worked very hard to get where I am. And the reason I bring this up, because, you know, I list my education here. This is a drop in the bucket when you think about taking somebody, leaving everything they know behind. Imagine you being picked up and being just thrown into Saudi Arabia or into an African country and saying, you know what, the clothes that you have on your back is what you're going to survive with. You can't speak the language, you don't know anybody, and you are to make it in this world. And then, just when you finally get a foothold, picking you up and saying, okay, now 10 years later, we're going to pick you up and we're going to move you again. And then doing it again after that. This is not difficult. This is a piece of cake. I knew that if I failed anywhere along this line, I had a home to go back to. Our grandparents, our parents, they didn't know that. I'm going to cry now. You know, just think of this. They're taking that step off that boat, and they have no idea what to expect. That's what being American is all about. Not living in America. Coming from another country and making this country your own. So, why work so hard? Because of these ideals. We left behind everything we know. Every single one of you in this room is ethnic in some aspect. Whether it's your parents or your grandparents, they left everything they knew, and they started all over again. I try to pass this on to my kids, but it's a little more difficult when you've been here a couple of generations. It's hard to understand that. Yes, I'm Greek, but I'm Greek American. I take the best of my culture, just like the rest of you are going to take the best of your cultures. And we are going to come and live in a wonderful place like Lorain, where all these cultures can be shared. And the great part about this is, we don't have to use any of the bad stuff. There is enough good culture that we can put it all together and have more culture than we could ever deal with. We need to embrace our cultures. We don't need to get blinded by them and say that this is the only way it's done. Because not everything in our cultures is good. We need to take the best of each of our cultures, combine them, and then make this new land. And then on top of that, start some new traditions. Because 15, 20 years from now, when you're a grandfather, those are going to be your traditions. Those are going to be the traditions that your kids carry on. I bring this up. I do cosmetic surgery, as I said. And I remember, it was probably my first week in private practice. I grab my chart and we flag our cosmetic charts with a little symbol that says this is a cosmetic patient. So I get a gentleman very similar to this, and I walk in and I look at him and I say, well, what is it about your nose that you don't like? He looks at me and he says, well, I'm not here for my nose. I don't like my upper eyelids. I'm like, okay, that's my assumption. Because he came in, he was ethnic, he had a large nose, that's what he was not going to like. And the reality is he embraced that. That's the nose his father had, that's the nose his grandfather had. He loved that nose. He didn't like his upper eyelids. I found nothing wrong with his upper eyelids. So we need to embrace our culture and be proud of where we came from. There's a famous saying that says, the reason we can climb so high is because we are standing on the shoulders of giants. That is a phenomenal saying. That is a saying that tells me that everything that we do is because of the people that came before us. These are my 5 kids, and this is the land that we're going to pass on to our children. Everything we do affects those around us. It's a ripple effect. It reminds me of a story about this young immigrant that came to this country, and every river he would cross, he would stop and he'd build a bridge back to the other side. And he would keep going and he'd go through his travels and he'd come to a river and he'd cross this river and he'd build a bridge back over to the other side. And he sees this young guy that just swims across the river and just starts running away. And the young guy turns back to him and says, hey old man, can't you see how much faster I'm moving? And so why do you waste your time and build these bridges back? And he looks at him and he says, you know, because someday I'm going to get to a river that I can't cross. And I hope that somebody was there before me to build a bridge so that I can cross over. And that's what we need to do for our kids. We need to make sure that everything that we do builds that bridge so that our kids can cross. Now back to my father, who thought Socrates and all the Greeks were the smartest people in the world. Well, guess what? They were, and he was. This is from Socrates' own mouth. He says, I am not an Athenian, nor a Greek, but a citizen of the world. And that's what we all are. Regardless of whether we are princesses from all our different cultures, we sit at the same table, we are going to share the same country, we are citizens of this world. Thank you.